How many times have you heard the story of a family dog able to sense disease long before the owner was found to have it? Well, those stories have been mounting to the point where science isn't ignoring them anymore. W5's Sandie Rinaldo reports on how a dog's superior sense of smell could very soon be a legitimate and much less invasive diagnostic tool.
Great Horwood, a small hamlet about 1 hour west of London, England.
Kiwi, this way.
A pastoral, bucolic setting where dogs like 3-year-old Kiwi can be dogs, free to explore and sniff the bounties of nature.
Good girl.
Pauline Brown is Kiwi's foster mom and socializer. She's had the Labrador Retriever in her home and under her wing for about a year.
Good girl.
So what exactly is a socializer?
Socializer is a person who takes the dog from a puppy through their training to make them a well-behaved dog. She had quite a few naughty traits that dogs often do have.
A few naughty traits that need to be ironed out, while at the same time Pauline wants to encourage Kiwi's natural instincts and abilities.
And drop it. Good girl.
But Kiwi is no ordinary pet because Kiwi has a very important day job. Pauline's role as socializer is to get her ready for it.
She's doing prostate cancer detection work.
That's right, cancer.
Off to work now.
Kiwi's a specialist dog and part of a unique group of animals
Come along.
taking part in groundbreaking research.
Upsie.
They're being trained to sniff out disease. So every day, Pauline packs up the dog, just like a dozen other socializers in the area, and drives her to the Medical Detection Dogs facility outside nearby Milton Keynes to join a dozen other donated or rescue animals. There are dogs everywhere, in offices, under desks, playing, nuzzling, sleeping, sniffing. Behavioral psychologist Claire Guest has been training specialist dogs for years after founding Medical Detection Dogs, or MDD, as a charity.
We have dogs that are trained to detect changes in blood sugar level, dogs that are trained to detect changes in cortisol level, and we have dogs that are trained to detect allergens in the environment.
And now Claire and her team are taking on disease and cancer detection, testing the dog's accuracy.
Prostate, bladder and kidney, yes. Of the 3 prostates, the most challenging to diagnose reliably currently.
Why is that?
The test that was used in the UK is called the PSA, and it's a blood test. It's good at picking out prostate cancer if it's there. It has a low false negative, but it has a very, very high false positive, 75%, which means that 3 out of 4 men that have a raised PSA, in fact, haven't got cancer.
So the dogs are going to help with that false positive.
Absolutely. There's been a published paper in Milan from last year, and it indicates that dogs have a reliability of over 96% for detection of prostate cancer from urine.
More than 96%. That's impressive, and Claire wants to duplicate it. Here in the English countryside, the idea of dogs as disease detectors has taken on momentum. But what about the medical community, which has been slow to embrace the idea? Well, Britain's National Health Service, which is the equivalent to Health Canada, has approved clinical trials to determine whether, in fact, dogs can pass the sniff test. It is the British government's highest level of involvement, and they are taking it very seriously.
The fact that the National Health Service have engaged with us now and we're collaborating in this 3-year trial is pivotal. It's these bigger trials that are really going to establish how reliably a bigger team of dogs can do this work over a much, much larger sample size, and this part is critical.
So in this glass-enclosed room, the groundbreaking trials into cancer detection are underway, research sanctioned by the British government. It is Mark Somerville's job to prepare the vials containing urine samples from patients with prostate cancer and those without. Mark will randomly place a cancer sample in among the negative specimens on a specially designed carousel.
Kiwi.
Head trainer Rob Harris brings Pauline's dog Kiwi, who's been waiting all morning to do this, into the room and directs her to the carousel. Rob then stands behind the screen.
So I can make sure that I'm not subconsciously or knowingly giving the signal to dog to tell her where it is.
On every run we watch, Kiwi quickly and correctly identifies the one positive specimen
Indication? Correct.
among the 8 and indicates her find by sitting at attention.
Indication? Correct. Indication? Correct. She gave me a very clear signal that she'd found the confirmed prostate cancer by sitting down and staring at it, to which I gave her a click, and she got a food reward for it. Good girl, what a good girl. What she did is she went around the carousel, she actively ignored the people that were deemed healthy or with other conditions that we're not interested in finding, and she correctly picked out the person with confirmed prostate cancer.
Come on in.
She works very, very hard and worked very well.
It's the kind of outcome Claire is hoping for.
If we are successful in providing an evidence base, if we're successful in finding that we can reliably detect prostate cancer from a urine sample, the hospitals will engage with us.
And that's important down the road and now. Claire provides the dogs for the trials. Milton Keynes University Hospital provides the urine samples to Claire from patients like David Tomlinson.
This case of hormone therapy and chemotherapy.
A meeting of a prostate cancer support group. David has been participating for a couple of years now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome particularly to those newcomers.
David's cancer was diagnosed through a standard PSA blood test and a doctor's internal exam.
So he also confirmed that the PSA wasn't particularly large, but he said the prostate definitely felt a little lumpy, not as smooth as it should be.
David had a biopsy that confirmed his cancer was fairly advanced and aggressive. He went through surgery, radiation, hormone therapy, and chemotherapy. It's been 3 years since the diagnosis. He's recovering well and is physically active. When the invitation came for the prostate cancer group to tour the MDD facility and watch the dogs in action, David and the men in his support group jumped at the opportunity. The group was then invited to donate urine samples anonymously. What did you think of the idea of dogs as a secondary line of early detection?
It seems good to me. We know that dogs, amongst other animals, have senses that we don't necessarily possess to the same degree. I suspect the future will be men will go donate a urine sample and be used as actually a primary test to diagnose their cancer.
Are you worried about recurrence?
Well, that's still the continuing story, really. The thing is with prostate cancer, and I suspect most cancers, the earlier you detect it, the much better chances you are of curing it.
Early detection. For Claire, as it turns out, all of this is more than biomedical trials and proving that dogs have the right stuff to do the job. For her, it's also personal.
My dog Daisy's always at home with me, and for a few days she started to seem a little bit wary of me. I couldn't quite work out. She had big brown eyes staring at me, and I was sort of slightly bemused by this. Took her out for a walk one day. I let her jump out the back of the car, but she wouldn't go. She kept jumping into my chest with these big worried eyes. So I pushed her away and thought, what on earth, what's upsetting you? But it led me to find a small lump. I felt this lump for a couple of days. I felt like a bruise, actually, like somebody I'd got an old bruise. I eventually went to my GP, and they didn't think there was anything to worry about with the lump. But what they did then discover later on was that I had a very, very, very deep-seated breast cancer.
She must sense that we're talking about this, because
She's not happy.
we were talking about Daisy diagnosing your breast cancer, and she got up and left that chair.
She's very sensitive to mood, and if I talk about something that slightly makes me feel slightly anxious, then she does pick up on it, and it may be that she felt that bit of anxiety. Good girl, Daisy.
Claire underwent surgery and radiation therapy soon afterwards for her breast cancer.
The fact that her behaviour led me to find this deep-seated cancer, which my clinician said would have been very difficult to find. And by the time it had grown forward and could have been felt, my prognosis would have been extremely poor.
So Daisy saved your life.
Daisy did save my life, yes. And that has meant that I am even more focused on the work and what it could do to save lives in the future. We lose so many people through late diagnosis, and it could be changed.
honing their senses
Yes, good boy.
to help the medical world.
How accurate was he?
Between 95 and 100%.
Nice work, buddy.
When W5 continues.
Milton Keynes, northwest of London, the scene of government-sanctioned biomedical trials underway to determine how accurately dogs can detect prostate cancer cells. Canines have long been recognized for the power of their noses, their value to law enforcement, their value as service dogs for the visually impaired. But they're also helping alert patients to the onset of epilepsy attacks and the panic associated with PTSD. And of course, we know about their ability to sniff out explosives and drugs.
Good girl.
That was Teresa Zerberg's expertise when she retired from her job as a medic with the Canadian military. She made a career for herself in Vancouver, training dogs to sniff out bombs and drugs. But then Teresa was seriously injured. What happened?
I got a cut on my leg, a deep cut on my leg, ended up getting infected, and I became septic, and I was on so many antibiotics. It killed all the good bacteria in my gut and letting the bad bacteria take over, and that bad bacteria was C. diff.
Teresa almost died from C. difficile, the often deadly hospital-acquired bacterial infection, which strikes as many as 6,000 Canadians a year, attacking the weakened immune system of those on long-term high doses of antibiotics. Did you think you would die?
At one point, yeah.
She recovered and survived, but it was a wake-up call. Teresa's husband, Marcus, a nurse at Vancouver General Hospital, specializes in patient safety and quality control. He stumbled upon something that would change their lives. So Teresa got sick with C. difficile. Was the fact that she became ill with this bacterial infection that inspired you to look into it in a deeper way?
We get weekly reports with our numbers where our new infections are, so I see that it's a constant battle that we have. It was more or less by accident that I came across this article from Amsterdam with the C. diff detection dog that they've used, and it was very interesting.
Inspired by what he read about a beagle named Cliff who sniffs out C. difficile in the Netherlands, Marcus approached his wife.
I said, hey, do you think you could do this?
I was like, yeah, if it has an odor, I can train a dog to do it. That's kind of cool. Can we go for a walk?
Enter Angus, the couple's 2-year-old Springer Spaniel.
Let's go.
Teresa made Angus her test case. The plan, put her dog training skills to the test to teach the hyperactive Angus to sniff out the bacteria that nearly took her life.
So the first thing we did with Angus is we got him just looking for his toy. At that point in time, it was a purple squeaky hippopotamus. So we'd hide it all sorts of places.
Then Teresa switched it up, adding the scent of C. diff to something called a hide.
The scent pads didn't have any spores on it, so they weren't toxic to him or to me. All the detection work to the dog is a game. In the end, they don't care about explosives, they don't care about narcotics, they don't care about C. diff. They just know that it's a means to get whatever their reward is at the end. When he finds the C. diff, he'll either sit or he'll lay down at the odor and stay there until I acknowledge him.
Yes, good boy.
Pretty soon, according to Teresa, it was obvious Angus was getting it.
Yeah, good boy.
And getting it right consistently.
Yes, good boy. Good boy. That was nice work, buddy.
How accurate was he?
Between 95 and 100%.
Yes, good boy.
Armed with a good scorecard, Marcus approached hospital administrators. Carrie Stephenson is the Vancouver Health Region's representative.
When Marcus approached us and said, could this be possible? We went, why not? Let's find out.
Once Angus got the go-ahead for the pilot project, he had his first on-site training and his certification, the same certification used for bomb and drug sniffing dogs.
Good man.
The media was invited to watch the results. Angus did so well, he now has his own hospital ID badge and is starting his first contract job at the hospital sniffing out C. difficile. He is believed to be the only dog in Canada certified to do this.
It's another way, another tool now that they have to isolate and hopefully curb the spread of the contact C. diff.
Will Angus save lives?
He will definitely save lives.
The plan is still for Angus to sniff out the deadly bacteria in empty patient rooms and hallways. Once he identifies C. difficile, hospital cleaners will do the legwork. Heavy-duty disinfection using ultraviolet light. Is the dog ever at risk of picking up C. diff?
Dogs are at risk for picking up C. diff, very small risk, but because he's a young, healthy dog, it's very low risk. But we do get him monitored by our vet, regular health checkups, just to make sure that he doesn't contact C. diff.
Yeah, you're excited, eh?
Angus still gets time to be a dog, chase balls, go for walks in the park, but his apparent success is opening the way for other health facilities to get with the program. What do you hope happens next?
To see other health authorities contact us, and we help them get their own C. diff dog programs going. So to see it become common practice would be a dream.
Which brings us to the whole idea of standardizing protocols for clinical trials across Canada. And whether it's C. difficile sniffing dogs or dogs sniffing out diseases like cancer, there's also no widespread sharing of information. Well, across the country on the East Coast, there is a scientist who would like to change all of that.
All right, yay, let's go.
Simon Gadbois is a behavioral biologist at Dalhousie University in Halifax.
Quiver, come here. Swipe.
He may well be the only scientist in Canada taking a closer look at the most effective methods for training dogs to sniff out endangered species and diseases like diabetes.
You see, that's the thing with dogs, is we can't even come close to imagine how powerful their sense of smell is.
But more than just the snout hardware, through his research, Simon wants to understand what exactly the dogs are smelling, the chemical that says this is diabetes or this is cancer, and how the brain, the software, processes that information. So how does it work?
That's what fascinates me actually about olfaction as well, the sense of smell. We don't really know that much about it, and there's all kinds of interesting theories about how it may work.
In the lab, Simon's graduate student, Catherine Reeves, is studying the way dogs use smell to identify changes in the body when disease is present, particularly diabetes.
The idea initially was to do this in the context of having dogs trained to alert parents that their child was having an hypoglycemic event at night.
Catherine is looking to determine the best way to teach dogs to detect low blood sugar levels from samples. On this day, Catherine will be conducting a double-blind test. It means she has no idea which samples contain the target odor. That way, the trainer is not able to signal the dog.
Ready, Della?
The dogs comes to the sample, will sniff it, and will say yes or no. If it's yes, they keep their nose 5 seconds on the sample.
Good girl. Della, what's this?
If it's no, they sit back. That's it. That's simple.
Good girl.
A lot of people in lab conditions, they don't necessarily train the dog double-blind right from the start.
Even when he's lecturing his students, Simon is pushing home the idea of protocols, uniform methods that can be used right across the country.
What we'll see in the DSM. Dogs that hit 100% accuracy 3 or 4 days in a row, but then crash at 50% or chance 2 days later, that's no good for us, really. Actually, we're interested in the training itself, how to do it better. Finding a methodology and a protocol that actually work, a standard that's acceptable to not just us, but all other teams as well.
And that means Health Canada, right?
Yes, potentially could mean Health Canada or the FDA.
W5 contacted Health Canada. We were told, although the department hasn't yet received any requests to authorize dogs as diagnostic tools, they are open to discussions. Back in Vancouver,
Okay, hop down. Good boy.
Teresa Zerberg appreciates the importance of methodology and animal certification. Now that Springer Spaniel Angus has the stamp of approval, she wants to see more dogs certified.
That's how we get these milestones in the medical system. So it's just following that outside of the box thinking that's going to get the advances that we want.
The best nose in the business.
A dog is at least 1,000 times more sensitive.
Could be the key to a breakthrough.
And what we'd like to know is which are those compounds.
When W5 continues.
C. difficile sniffing dogs in Vancouver. Dogs sniffing out diabetes in Halifax. Dogs sniffing out cancer near London, England. And it all comes down to the nose. Behavioral psychologist Claire Guest gets it.
Caroline.
She's capitalizing on the dog's superior olfactory receptors to sniff out prostate cancer cells at her MDD facility near Milton Keynes, England.
Good girl.
So what is it about the nose of a dog that makes it such a good medical detector?
Well, they have 300 million sensory receptors in the nose. Us humans have got 5 million, so you can imagine the difference. They've also got actually 2 noses. They've got the nose you can see on the front of their face, but they've also got the organ of Jacobson at the back of the throat. And when a dog's interested in an odour, he actually does a double sniff. And this is measured by 2 different parts of the brain. So they're fantastic at it, and they just love doing it because it's what dogs do.
Go free.
Claire says that it is what dogs are actually smelling that needs to be studied and identified, and that opens up a whole new world.
What we're hoping for in the future is that the technology in the dog's nose could be mimicked by a machine.
That's right, a machine, an electronic or e-nose that identifies the chemical the dogs are smelling. But first, the target scent or scent molecules need to be identified. And it's all happening here at the University of Bedfordshire in Luton, England, a suburb of London. Robin Matham is a biological scientist who understands the power of the nose. In terms of differentiating between our abilities to smell and an animal, is there a way for you to show me how that works?
One of the things that they actually do when they're training the dogs is their ability to smell amyl acetate. Amyl acetate is the pear drop smell.
Okay.
This is a 1 in 100 dilution. If you just smell that.
Of pear. A pear drop.
It should be a pear droppy kind of smell. Can you smell that?
It's got a chemical smell to it, but yes, I do smell.
It's a banana-y, peary.
Yes, yes,
Yeah?
yes. Got it. Okay.
So that's a 1 in 100 dilution. So if we move to 1 in 10,000 dilution, can you still smell that? Maybe very faint.
Very faintly.
Yeah. We can detect this at about 50 parts per billion.
Right.
A dog is at least 1,000 times more sensitive. So I could go down and pick a tube further down to the right. With 1,000 times less in, and the dog would still be able to detect it. That's how much more sensitive they are than we are.
Armed with that knowledge, Robin's goal now is to identify the prostate cancer biomarkers the dogs are identifying in the urine samples provided by Claire's team. Robin's endgame: provide data that will help build an electronic nose, medical technology that mimics a dog's nose.
Even our best scientific equipment isn't as sensitive, but what we can do if we know what they can sense is we can do something to pick up the same signal with a technological answer. So when you have a sample that you're sniffing, it's like a perfume. There's lots of components, lots of different things inside it. Now, out of those hundreds of different compounds, we don't know the probably 1, 2, 3 or 4 that the dogs are actually detecting and saying, oh, I can smell cancer in this. And what we'd like to know is which are those compounds.
And here's how it works. Robin takes a urine sample and feeds it into a machine called the gas chromatograph. It breaks down compounds in the urine in the same way scientists test for drugs in the urine of athletes. And he ends up with a very complex set of fingerprints.
The idea is that we'll separate out the urine samples, we'll present them back to the dogs and effectively ask the dogs, can you still smell cancer in this? If we knew the ones which were related just to the cancer, we could make it much simpler and devise something that is a very simple and cheap and economic way of detecting just those few molecules.
So essentially, you're using the dog as a biosensor to help you create an electronic biosensor.
Yeah.
But that's down the road. It will take several years before they get to the point where a machine can beat man or woman's best friend.
The dog is still the most sensitive biosensor currently. But, you know, there's huge progress being made, and that is very much part of our focus. It isn't just about what these dogs can do for us in the future, it's also about how the dogs can support the science behind what they're doing.
But don't expect to see disease detection dogs wandering through medical offices and hospital hallways.
So we're not talking about the dog becoming the doctor. What would happen is the urine test would run alongside current tests.
It's what David Tomlinson is hoping will happen to help people like him who've been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And Pauline Brown as well. Remember her? She's socializing Kiwi for the Labrador Retriever's important job of sniffing out prostate cancer cells at trials underway at medical detection dogs. Pauline was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago. So there's something personal at stake here for you.
Hopefully I've got rid of mine, and I detected it by myself as well. But for my friends, for anyone, I mean, I might get it again. But if these dogs can do this work and do it accurately, it is going to be absolutely incredible.